Om Gam Ganapate Namaha, Kaliyugada Kalpataru, Fourth Delight, Sri Vyasa Yati Sarvabhouma. Chapter 51, The Haridasa Tradition and Dasa Literature. The Haridasas and the literature have persisted uninterruptedly throughout the ages. It can be said that the Haridasa tradition, which began after creation, continues to this day. To grasp the global significance of this tradition and to understand its vivid picture as reflected on the canvas of our consciousness, it becomes necessary to deliberate on certain aspects. Who are the Haridasas? What are their connections with the Vedas, Puranas, and the Kaliyuga? What is the significance of the literature, which is a form of praise for the Lord? What is the path they followed? And how are Kannada Haridasas distinct from other Vaishnava saints of India? What are the characteristic, conduct, and speech of the Haridasas? What is their devotion to God, their worship, the literary works they composed, and the motivational force behind their writings? Who were the pioneers of the Haridasa literature in Kannada? What is the lineage of this tradition? And who were the key figures responsible for the golden age of Haridasa's literature? What are their unique contributions? And how have Kannada Haridasa's works benefited the language, the people, and the culture? Reflecting on these questions even briefly allows one to appreciate the profound significance of the tradition. In this chapter, we intend to present to readers, with thoughtful analysis, all the aforementioned topics according to our capacity. All the scriptures, including the Vedas, proclaim that Sri Narayana is the supreme deity, the cause of creation, sustenance, and destruction. He governs all, including Brahma, Shiva, Indra, and all other deities. The Lord is flawless, endowed with infinite auspicious qualities, the giver of liberation, an incomprehensible and wondrous power, of unparalleled greatness, devoid of any internal contradictions, the friend of devotee, and knowable only through the Vedas, the Shrutis, Upanishads, Smritis, Itihasas, Gitas, Pancharatras, Ramayana, Puranas, and all sutras anonymously declare Sri Narayana as the supreme Parabrahman. The Lord, out of his boundless compassion, liberates all beings from the cycle of birth and death, which is the root cause of their sufferings. By granting them the eternal bliss of self-realization, he provides ultimate relief from all miseries. To attain his favor and grace, scriptures like the Vedas have been set forth to guide beings. They proclaim everything except liberation is suffering. All beings are afflicted by sorrow. To elevate this sorrow, the Vedas act, and Narayana alone is to be meditated upon by those seeking liberation from the bondage of karma. In the path of attaining Sri Hari's grace, the first essential step is to become his servant. Those who surrender themselves entirely to the Lord, dedicate everything to him, and continuously serve him with devotion are known as Haridasas. Such Haridasas have existed in all times. When enumerating the Haridasas, it is said that Goddess Lakshmi, revered as Akshara Purusha, is the foremost among them. Following Lakshmi Devi, Brahmadeva, and Vayudeva are considered principal Haridasas. After them, Bharati, Saraswati, Garuda, Shesha, Rudra, Sauparni, Varuni, Umadevi, and subsequently all the other deities, including Indra, are also regarded as Haridasas. In the Pauranic era, renowned figures such as Narada, Prahlada, Vibhishana, Dhruva, Ambarisha, Shibi, Bali, Rukrangada, Gajendra, and Ajamila gained fame and devotion of Lord Hari and became widely known as Haridasas due to their profound devotion. Thus, the lineage of the Haridasas has continued from time immemorial. Sri Madhvacharya emphasized the preeminence of Brahmadeva, states that Brahmadeva, as the foremost preceptor of the universe, is the first Haridasa among conscious beings. He has extolled Lord Hari in various ways, including, as said in the Bhagavata, that Sri Hari is the supreme deity. the creator, sustainer, and destroyer of the entire universe. Brahmadeva praises are echoed in Pancharatra Agama, where he states that Sri Hari uses himself, Shiva, and other deities as instrument in his divine play. Rudradeva, instructing his son, Shanmukha declares, Sri Vishnu alone is the supreme Parabrahman. His knowledge is the means to liberation. This is the conclusion of all scriptures. Anything contrary to this is delusion. Statements claiming equality between myself and Sri Hari, or that I am superior to Vishnu, or that liberated beings are indistinguishable from Sri Hari, are mere deceptive words meant to mislead the unworthy and are not the truth. Even in liberation, the distinction between Vishnu and us remains. This is the factual perspective. Meditate accordingly, Rudra advised. From this deliberation, it becomes evident that Sri Hari is the supreme being and all other sentient and non-sentient entities are subordinate to him. The praises of Sri Hari, descriptions of his divine attributes, and teachings about his nature found in the scriptures are all considered Haridasa literature. In the Puranic era, Prahalada Raja, a Haridasa, was renowned as a lifelong Vaishnava and a leading devotee. His hymns were of the highest order, vividly portraying the earrings of a devotee. His guru, Devarshi Narada, holds the title of a propagator of the Bhagavata Dharma. As stated, on the earth where Narada sowed the seeds of the name Narayana, Narada was the one who introduced the world to Haridasa tradition. At Narada's request, Bhagwan Vyasa composed the Bhagavata Purana. Narada's heartfelt presentation of his devotional activities to Vyasa is captivating. When Gajendra was caught by the crocodile, he prayed to the Lord in various ways, including Om Namo Bhagavate Tasmayate. Similarly, the gopis won over Sri Krishna with their love and devotion. Their lamentation during separation from Krishna, born of the deep longing, is well known. Thus, the number of Bhagavatas is innumerable, and their hymns and compositions, including the Bhagavata Purana and other scriptures, are all forms of praise for the Lord. All the great Bhagavatas worshipped the Lord through singing, praising, and dancing, as Krishna himself describes in the Gita. Those who worship through constant meditation, unwavering commitment, and devotion are indeed yogis. The Padma Purana beautifully describes how all the Bhagavatas came together to sing, praise, and dance in honor of Sri Hari. That Prahalada, Uddhava, Narada, Arjuna, Indra, the celestial youths, and Sri Shuka, the son of Vyasa, all came together to perform Kirtana, that is praise, singing, and dancing of Sri Hari. This scene vividly illustrates their collective devotion. In the Kaliyuga, Sri Madhvacharya, born with the divine grace of Vakdevi, is considered one of the foremost Haridasas, ranking just after Brahmadeva. He incarnated to teach the profound secrets of Sri Hari's philosophy, served and praised the Lord in various ways, and became a recipient of his supreme grace. The sentiments expressed in his hymns are deeply profound. Sri Vayudeva, through his three incarnations as Hanuma, Bhima, and Madhva, dedicated himself entirely to the service of Sri Hari. Every moment of his life and every breath of his being resonated with the name of Hari. As the Supreme Soul, Jivottama, he is present within all beings and chants the Hamsa Mantra 21,600 times daily. He is said to have mastered 70 million great mantras. His every action was a service to Hari, and every word he spoke was a hymn of praise to Hari. Madhvacharya's composition, the Dwadasha Stotra, renowned as Hari Gita, is a hallmark of devotional music and serves as a central inspiration and focal point for the Kannada Haridasa literature of today. His works are steeped in devotion and lyrical beauty. Acharya Madhva through his Vedantic scriptures such as Tattvavada, Anuvakhyana, Rigbhashya, Tatpara Nirnaya, and Karma Nirnaya, illuminated the essence of the Vedas, Upanishads, and the Puranas for noble souls. In these works, praises of Sri Hari appears in various forms. In some places, these hymns are as accessible as a ripe banana, while in others they are concealed as a coconut meat within a hard shell. Whether as glorification of Hari, Hari Kirtana, or exaltation like Hari Utkarsha, Stava, they are all present throughout. Examples of his hymns include Namami Nikhiladesha, describing Sri Hari from head to toe, and Keshava Keshava Shasaka Vande, Matsyaka Rupa Layodi Viharin, extolling the various forms of the Lord. These hymns encapsulate the meanings of all scriptures and are deeply devotional. Acharya Madhva's Dwadasha Stotra, composed in a musical style, served as an inspiration for his disciples, including Sri Narhari Tirtharu and other Kannada Haridasas. These disciples created countless compositions, including Padas, Padyas, Suladis, Ugabugas, and Kannada poetry. For this reason, it is widely acknowledged that Sri Madhvacharya was the architect of the Kannada Haridasa tradition. Sri Jayatirtha Gurupada, who is renowned as Tikacharya for composing commentaries on all works of Sri Madhvacharya, is one of the most distinguished Haridasas. Born as an incarnation of Indra, Sri Jayatirtharu is revered as a second in prominence among the trio of sages, Sri Madhva, Jayatirtharu, and Sri Vyasarajaru. His writings, which expound on the greatness of Hari, stand as a testimony to his devotion. Thus, he is celebrated with verse such as Sri Madhva Kalpa Vrikshasya. This means that among the three sages, Madhva, Jayatirtha, and Vyasaraja Tirtharu, Jayatirtharu occupies the second position and is widely acclaimed. Who are the Haridasas? Haridasas can generally be defined as those who embrace the Bhagavata Dharma, constantly immerse themselves in the knowledge of Hari, and dedicate their lives to the teachings, the truths of the Supreme Being. Their ultimate goal is the upliftment and welfare of all beings. They recognize everything as belonging to Hari and worship Him selflessly. Such noble souls who have attained the direct vision of the Lord are known as Haridasas. Haridasas have existed across all times and regions of India. While there are many Vaishnava saints in India, the Kannada Haridasas possess a unique distinction, as will be elaborated further. Characteristics of Haridasas. The hallmark of Haridasa is complete surrender to Hari, renouncing everything in pursuit of His grace. They find joy in Hari's blessings, endure the anguish of separation from Him, and are detached from worldly pleasures. Their lives are marked by constant contemplation of Hari, devotion expressed through love, friendship, and filial affection, and the humility of a servant. They exhibit divine anger and tender compassion in the relationship with the Lord. These qualities are common to all Haridasas. Many saints who practice such devotion attain the vision of Hari. For instance, saints like Tyagaraja, Tulsi Dasa, and Tukaram experience the direct presence of the Lord as evidenced by their life stories. Scriptures reveal that such divine visions are the ultimate goal of life. When the Lord incarnated as Rama and Krishna, some pure-hearted beings saw their forms and recognized them as divine. However, their awareness was often fleeting as ignorance once again veiled their perception. This indicates that an external vision of Lord does not necessarily establish unwavering devotion. Thus the sutra states that the true yogi of enlightened one is he who pursues the divine reflection of the Supreme Being in the heart's core. The description of the Paramatma in the heart is extensively discussed in the Narayana Upanishads and other Upanishads. This vision of the Lord is liberation itself. Those who attain this are known as Aparoksha Jnanis. The Brahma Sutras also affirm this. Here, Badarayana explains that liberation is achieved only through the direct vision of the divine reflection of no other way. Sri Madhvacharya supports this with his authoritative references such as Narayana Tantra and Adhyatma Prakasha. All his disciples upheld this perspective. Other schools of thought do not emphasize this concept of direct vision of Hari's reflection as clearly as Madhvacharya does. Distinction of Kannada Haridasas. Among India's Vaishnava saints, there is little evidence of this Bimba Aparoksha, that is, direct vision of the divine reflection, in their lives or teachings. Kannada Haridasas, however, prominently highlight this concept in their lives and works. This unique feature is particularly evident in their compositions and stands out as a key aspect of their legacy. The works of Sri Chandrikacharya, such as Antarangadali Hariya Kanadava Huttu Kurudano, one who does not see Hari within is like a blind man from birth, and Yenna Bimba Muratiya Pujipenanu, I worship my reflections deity, emphasize the practice of worship through inner reflection. Similarly, Sri Purandaradasaru's composition, Kandinolage Nodo Srihariya, Vadagaldinodane Nodo Mujjigadodayana, and Yelli Virata Puje Hrudaya Kamala Ashtadala Hrishikesha Narayana Hansagamana. It is the 8-petaled lotus of the heart, O Narayana, who moves like a swan. Describe the heart lotus and mental worship. His song, Pindanda Dolagina Gandana Kanade Munderadaru Panditaru. Failing to see the Lord within themselves, scholars wandered fruitlessly. Future conveys the same message. Vijayadasaru's Antarangada Kadavu Teri Tindu. Today the inner door has opened, reflects the realization of direct experience, that is Aparoksha. Similarly, Gopala Dasaru's Dhyanavane Madu Bimba Murtiya, meditate upon the deity in reflection, describes the practice of Bimbopasana Yoga with remarkable clarity. Jagannatha Dasaru in his Harikatamrita Sara writes, the Lord resides in the 8-petaled lotus of the heart, emphasizing that Kannada Haridasas has had profound inner experience and were all Aparoksha Jnanis, that is, those with direct experiential knowledge of the divine. From this reflection, it becomes evident that such experiences are entirely true and attainable in life through the extraordinary grace of the Supreme Being. Following the spiritual path, the enlightened sages, including the Kannada Haridasas, adhered to this tradition. Those who attained such extraordinary realizations are known as Atmaramanas, that is, rejoicing in the self. Antararamanas, rejoicing within, and Paramasiddhas, supreme accomplished ones. By experiencing the blissful form of the Supreme Being in the heart's core, all ignorance, attachment, aversion, sorrow, and other afflictions are eradicated. The bonds of the subtle body, Lingadeha, are loosened, as stated in the Manduka Upanishad. The knot of the heart is broken, all doubts are destroyed, and accumulated karmas are annihilated when the Supreme Being is realized. Such individuals who have had the vision of the Lord are called Aparoksha Jnanis. Our Kannada Haridasas belong to this group, exemplifying this profound spiritual achievement. Hari is the independent creator and an Aparoksha Jnani, that is, one with direct experiential knowledge of the divine. Abundance ignorance, with the firm realization that he is but a servant of Hari. Immersed in the Lord, such a person attains the state of Asmaparayangata Samadhi, Asammaparayangata Samadhi, a transcendental state of consciousness. His life, appearing contrary to the worldly existence, become entirely dedicated to the Lord. This dedication is known as Ankita, mark of surrender. Among Kannada Haridasas, Ankita holds great significance. To forget their previous life, begin anew, and advance spiritually, they receive initiation and guidance from an enlightened Guru. During this initiation, the devotee receives a chosen name of the Lord, that is Ankitanama, which becomes their spiritual identity. From then on, the devotee is known by the name and engages in the pursuit of knowledge, meditation, and worship. Through these practices, they attain the vision of the Lord as a reflection, that is Bimba, in the heart and dedicate their entire being to Him. They live a steadfast adherent of the Bhagavata Dharma and as its propagators. This unique tradition is exemplified by Kannada Haridasas such as Sri Purandara Dasaru, Vijaya Dasaru, Gopala Dasaru, and Jagannatha Dasaru, all of whom were initiated with Ankita. Their lives offer numerous examples of profound spiritual experiences and demonstrate their status as Aparoksha Gnani. They clearly reflected their spiritual realization in their actions and words. This emphasis on Ankita and Aparoksha Gnana distinguishes Kannada Haridasas from other Vaishnava saints and elevates them to an higher status. The spread of Bhagavata Dharma and the version of Haridasa literature. Since the creation of the world, the propagation of Bhagavata Dharma has been continuously and uninterrupted. As mentioned earlier, Brahmadeva is the primal teacher of this tradition. His son Narada was not only a key figure in the Bhagavata tradition, but also the one who sowed the seed of Narayana's name on earth. In this lineage of Bhagavatas, saints like Prahalada, Dhruva, Kulila, Ambarisha, and Rukrangada are said to have been disciples of Narada. Among them, Narada and Prahalada were the foremost propagators of Bhagavata Dharma. Both later incarnated on earth to spread this Dharma even more extensively. Kannada Haridasa literature owes its vibrancy to Prahalada's reincarnation as Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu and Sri Raghavendra Swamigalu, as well as Narada's incarnation as Sri Purandara Dasa. Even today, the name Purandara Dasaru is synonymous with Kannada Haridasa literature. While Prahalada was a disciple of Narada, Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu was the guru of Purandara Dasaru. The Haridasa literature, which reached its zenith during Vyasaraja Tirtharu's time, has actually begun 2 centuries earlier. The foundation of Kannada Haridasa literature. The Madhva philosophy forms the foundational framework of Kannada Haridasa literature. Inspired by Sri Madhvacharya, his direct disciples, Sri Narhari Tirtharu is regarded as a pioneer of Kannada Haridasa literature. Sri Narhari Tirtharu was the first to compose devotional songs, that is padas, in Kannada, marking the beginning of this rich literary tradition. Sri Beluru Keshavadasa opined that Achalanandana Dasa, a devotee of the Bhagavata tradition known as Achalanandana Dasa, composed Kannada devotional songs as early as the 9th century CE. This suggests that Kannada Haridasa literature began with Achalanandana Dasa, not with Sri Narhari Tirtharu. However, this claim is not reasonable. Keshavadas cited a reference to Kashititankya in Achalanandana Das' Book of Hymns as evidence, claiming it indicated the year Shaka 801. This interpretation is incorrect. In fact, Kashiti Tankya refers to Shalivan Shaka 1281, the year Vilambi, not Saka 801. Additionally, the very hymn of Achalanandana Dasa contradict Keshava's claim. as they clearly indicate that Achalandana Dasa lived after Sri Madhvacharya. Therefore, it can be concluded that Achalandana Dasa came after Sri Madhvacharya and was likely a contemporary of Sri Narahari Tirtharu. In the Prachina Kirtana Sangraha, compiled by Kinnara Vidwan Hulaguru Krishnacharya, there is a hymn by Achalandana Dasa that goes as follows: Kedo Jivanave ni Madhvamata Vana Nusarisi. If Achalandana Dasa had lived 300 years before Sri Madhvacharya, it would not have been possible for him to include a line such as follow the Madhva philosophy in his hymn. This clearly establishes that Achalandana Dasa was part of the Madhva tradition and lived after Sri Madhvacharya, or at least during the same time as Sri Narahari Tirtharu. There is also a historical tradition that after Sri Narahari Tirtharu, 60 Shaiva saints led by Aradhya went to Pandrapura and adopted the Madhva philosophy. Among them, one saint composed the following lines: Mangana Kittantaitu Janmavu. This individual later became well known, and there is a tradition in the Haridasa circles that Achalandana Dasa was one among them. Based on this, it can be established that the primary propagator and the first composer of Kannada Haridasa literature was Sri Narahari Tirtharu. Sri Narahari Tirtharu's original name was Swami Shastri. He was a minister in the Kalinga kingdom and a profound scholar of Advaita philosophy, as well as a native Kannadiga. After engaging in debates with Sri Madhvacharya and being defeated, he was deeply impressed by the brilliance and wisdom of Madhvacharya. Consequently, he accepted Madhva initiation, took up sannyasa, and became known as Narahari Tirtharu. Becoming a disciple of Sri Madhvacharya, he was the second among Madhvacharya's 4 primary disciples. At the time of Sri Madhvacharya, and as per his instructions, Sri Narahari Tirtharu succeeded Sri Padmanabha Tirtharu in managing the Vedantic empire established by Madhvacharya and earned widespread recognition. Following his guru's directive, Sri Narahari Tirtharu went to the Kalinga kingdom to retrieve the idol of Sri Moolarama, worshipped by Brahma in the Satyayuga. At that time, the king had passed away and the queen was pregnant. In response to the prayers of the royal family, Sri Narahari Tirtharu administered the kingdom for 12 years until the prince came of age. He then crowned the prince and retrieved the idol of Sri Moolarama from the Gajapati treasury, offering it to Madhvacharya. Madhvacharya worshipped the Lord for 81 days and appointed Sri Padmanabha Tirtharu to continue the tradition of worship. Subsequently, Sri Padmanabha Tirtharu, Sri Narahari Tirtharu, and Sri Madhva Tirtharu worshipped Sri Moolarama. Later, the idol was worshipped by Tikacharya and is now enshrined in the Mata of Sri Raghavendra Swami, where it continues to receive worship. To commemorate bringing Sri Moolarama to the Mata, Sri Narahari Tirtharu began composing Kannada devotional songs under the pen name that is Ankita Raghupati. This earned him recognition as the founder of Kannada Haridasa literature. Though he authored hundreds of works, only a few have survived to the present day. One of his notable compositions is the following verses: Yentu Marulade Nanentu Marula. This Kannada hymn is deeply moving, portraying the plight of ignorant beings, the corrupt tendencies that arises from evil deeds, and the true righteous path that opposes such tendencies. It vividly contrasts these two paths, highlighting their vast differences. This composition demonstrates the maturity and spiritual depth of Sri Narahari Tirtharu as a Haridasa. Similarly, his other hymns, such as Hariye Idu Sariye, Tiliko Ninnola Nine, are rich in emotion and meaning, showcasing his profound devotion and literary excellence. Over a century after Sri Narahari Tirtharu, Haridasa literature was revitalized by Sri Lakshmi Narayana Muni, famously known as Sri Sripadarajaru. Even today, the Haridasa tradition honors Sripadarajaru prominently as reflected in the invocation Namma Sripadarajaru Namaste Vyasa Yogine Nama Purandara Rayaru Vijayarayaru Te Namaha. Sripadarajaru, who incarnated in the 15th century, was a disciple of Sri Swarnavarna Tirtharu, a successor in the sacred lineage of Sri Padmanabha Tirtharu, one of Madhvacharya's foremost disciples. Renowned as the pontiff of this lineage, Sripadarajaru was a distinguished scholar in the Vedantic tradition established by Sri Madhvacharya. He studied under Sri Vibhutendra Tirtharu, a revered pontiff of the Dakshinadi Matha, and mastered all scriptures, particularly the Dvaita philosophy, as interpreted through Madhvacharya's and Tikacharya's tradition. Sripadarajaru became the royal preceptor to Sulvanarasimha, the Vijayanagar emperor. He absolved the king of the sin of Brahmahatya, that is killing a Brahmin, and helped him ascend the throne around 1484 CE. Sulvanarasimha honored Sripadarajaru with Ratnabhisheka, that is ceremonial anointment with jewel, for his spiritual guidance. Following a dream, Sripadarajaru retrieved the idol of Sri Rangavitala from Pandrapura and, inspired by this event, began composing Kannada devotional works under the Ankita, that is pen name Rangavitala. He is revered as the patriarch of Kannada Haridasa literature. Sripadarajaru not only revived the Haridasa tradition but also nurtured it, giving it unparalleled prominence and ensuring its widespread dissemination. Although he composed hundreds of padas, that is devotional songs, only a fraction of his works are available today, which is a great loss for Kannada literature. His compositions are profound, rich in emotion, and accessible in style. Despite this simplicity of the Kannada language used, his works are adorned with contextually appropriate embellishment. His hymns vividly portray humility, divine playfulness, and the glory of the Lord. In addition to his padas, Sripadarajaru composed works like Sri Narsimha Pradurbhava Dandaka, written in Dandaka style, which is considered a unique contribution to Kannada literature. Other notable compositions include Gopi Gita, Venu Gita, Brahmara Gita, Rukmini Satyabhama Vilasa, and Madhvanama. His extensive literary contribution enriched the treasures of Kannada Haridasa literature and set the foundation for its further growth. For nearly 150 years, the Kannada Haridasa tradition flourished under his influence, producing numerous distinguished Haridasas. Before attaining divine union, Sripadarajaru entrusted the responsibility of developing, nurturing, and spreading Haridasa literature to his beloved disciple, Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu. This extraordinary saint is celebrated as Durvamsha by enlightened scholar. Acknowledging his pivotal role in shaping the Haridasa tradition, Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu, a disciple of Sripadarajaru, belonged to both the Vedic and Haridasa tradition. It is believed that the devoted Haribhakta Prahlada incarnated in the Treta Yuga as a monkey in Sri Rama's army and served the Lord. In Dwapara Yuga, he was born as Bahika Raja, a devotee of Sri Krishna, and was killed by Bhimasena during the Kurukshetra war after praying to him. Sri Madhvacharya in the Mahabharata Tatpara Nirnaya states that Bahika Raja, at the time of his death, prayed to Bhimasena for 2 more births in the Kaliyuga to serve Sri Hari and him. It is also said that when Prahlada was serving Sri Narsimha and Harivarsha, he met Narada and expressed his wish to be born in Kaliyuga to worship Sri Krishna. Fulfilling this desire, he later incarnated as Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu and subsequently as Sri Raghavendra Swamigalu, serving Sri Hari and Bhimasena, that is Vayudeva, in both lifetimes. Scholars regard his original form as Shankukarna, a celestial servant of Brahma in Satyaloka. Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu became the disciple of Sri Brahmanya Tirtharu of the Purvadi Matha, one of the 2 major institutions established by Madhvacharya. Ascending as the head of this Matha, Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu was a prodigious scholar, mastering all scriptures and defeating numerous adversaries in debates to firmly establish the Dvaita philosophy. He composed monumental works such as Chandrika, Nyayamrita, and Tarakandava, along with several other texts, greatly benefiting the philosophical community. This trilogy of works is famously referred to as Vyasatraya among the scholars. Vyasarajaru travelled across India twice, eradicating false doctrines, uplifting disciples, and spreading the teachings of Dvaita philosophy and Bhagavata devotion. His efforts significantly expanded the reach of Vaishnavism and Bhagavata tradition. Notably, his predecessors, Sri Rajendra Tirtharu and Sri Jayadwaja Tirtharu, has already introduced Vaishnava devotion in Bengal. Their disciples, Vishnupuri, received initiation and sannyasa from Sri Jayadwaja Tirtharu and propagated the Bhakti tradition as their representative. When Sri Vyasarajaru visited the Bengal, he was given extraordinary respect as a representative of the Rajendra lineage. There, he continued spreading Madhva philosophy and Vishnu devotion. He entrusted Sri Lakshmi Tirtharu with the responsibility of propagating these teachings. Sri Lakshmi Tirtharu's disciple, the renowned saint Sri Krishna Chaitanya of Bengal, became a major figure in the Vaishnava Bhakti tradition. Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu's contribution to spreading Krishna's devotion and the Bhakti movement globally are unparalleled. It is no exaggeration to say that the widespread growth of Krishna Bhakti traditions worldwide owes much to Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu. His unique contribution to the Bhakti path and their lasting global impact remains an invaluable legacy. While Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu was studying under Sri Sripadarajaru, he visited Pandrapura, where he experienced a divine vision of Sri Krishna in a temple. Captivated by Krishna's enchanting cosmic Tandava dance, Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu was overcome with devotion and ecstasy. To commemorate this auspicious event, he composed a hymn in Kannada under the pen name Sri Krishna, praising Krishna's mesmerizing dance. This composition marked Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu's first contribution to the treasury of Haridasa literature. Following this, under the guidance of his guru, Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu went on to compose hundreds of Kannada works, enriching the Haridasa literature and bringing glory to the Kannada language and culture. As the royal preceptor of Vijayanagar, Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu established a Sanskrit university that became unparalleled in South India. As its chancellor, he provided free food, clothing, lodging, and scholarship to thousands of students, empowering them to master all branches of knowledge, including scriptures, music, and fine arts. Among his disciples were hundreds of sannyasis and prominent figures such as Sri Vijayendra Tirtharu, Sri Vadirajaru, Sri Srinivasa Tirtharu, Govinda Odeyaru, and Narayana Yati. Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu also guided extraordinary saints like Sri Purandara Dasaru and Kanakadasaru, as well as his devoted disciple Narayanappa of Gadag. These disciples became eminent scholars, authors, and spiritual leaders, contributing significantly to the development of Dvaita philosophy and Kannada Haridasa literature. Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu's contribution to Kannada Haridasa literature. Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu's contribution to the nation, the Kannada language, and the Haridasa literature are extraordinary. When the scriptures such as the Vedas, Upanishad, Gita, Purana, and Mahabharata were primarily in Sanskrit, accessible only to the scholars, Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu made their teachings available to the common people for the first time by composing charming and profound works in Kannada. He incorporated music into these compositions, creating a revolutionary and transformative approach to sharing knowledge. By translating complex Sanskrit scriptures into Kannada, Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu democratized access to spiritual wisdom, which had previously been confined to scholars. His work brought immense prestige to the Kannada language, ensuring that the teaching of scriptures reached the masses. The respect he garnered from philosophers and the scholars for his Kannada composition is unparalleled and testifies to his extraordinary influence. Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu's efforts enriched Haridasa literature, made significant contribution to Kannada culture, and uplifted society through the dissemination of spiritual knowledge. His legacy of blending philosophy with devotion and music continues to inspire generations. In the Vedic tradition of the time, it was widely believed that using vernacular languages like Kannada or other regional languages for spiritual purposes was highly forbidden. Scriptures like Shesha Dharma stated, this means that those who abandoned the divine language Sanskrit and listened to scriptures composed in Kannada, Tamil, Telugu, or other vernacular languages are destined for hell. Despite such statements, how did a scholar of Sri Vyasarajatirtharu's stature compose and propagate spiritual teachings in Kannada? The answer lies in the understanding the deeper context of these prohibitions. These scriptural warnings were not intended to discredit vernacular languages universally, but to preserve the sanctity of Sanskrit for specific rituals and practices. Kannada Haridasa's literature, a divine effort. The pioneers of Kannada Haridasa literature are not ordinary individuals. They were renowned scholars, deeply rooted in Sanskrit learning and recognized as divine incarnations. Sri Madhvacharya, considered an incarnation of Vayudeva and the foremost exponent of Dvaita philosophy, composed Hari Gita in Sanskrit, which later inspired the Haridasa tradition. The first Kannada composition were created by Sri Narahari Tirtharu, a disciple of Sri Madhvacharyaru and a prominent pontiff of his lineage. Successive scholars such as Sri Sripadarajaru, Sri Vyasarajaru, Sri Vijayendraru, Sri Vadirajaru, all of whom were exceptional Sanskrit scholars and Dvaita philosophers, contributed immensely to Kannada Haridasa literature. These saints would never engage in unorthodox or non-scriptural activities. Their every action adhered strictly to the scriptures. The role of language in spiritual practices. While core Vedic scriptures and rituals like Sandhyavandana, Shraddha, and Mantra Japa are always performed in Sanskrit, the purpose of language in conveying the glory of the Lord is different. Language here serves merely as a medium. Whether the language is Kannada or Sanskrit, the intent is the same, to foster devotion and understanding of the divine. Therefore, Sanskrit is essential for scriptural rituals, but for spreading the glory of the Lord and conveying spiritual teachings, any language can serve as a tool. Justification from scriptures and saints. Sri Jagannatha Dasaru, in his Harikatamrita Sara, addressed this point beautifully. Madhavana Guna Pelva Prakrita. This means that narrating Madhva's virtues in a vernacular language and listening to them with devotional bring immense joy and spiritual benefit. He also states, do not disdain devotion just because it is expressed in vernacular languages instead of Sanskrit. The Lord, who is Pundarikaksha, blesses those who listen with devotion regardless of the language. Jagannatha Dasaru further emphasized, even if the Lord's stories are narrated in vernacular languages, they transform into Sanskrit for those who listen with devotion, leading them to spiritual liberation. A revolutionary contribution. Thus, saints like Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu and other Haridasas revolutionized spiritual practices by making the teachings of the Vedas, Upanishads, Puranas, and other scriptures accessible to common people through Kannada. Their works combined profound philosophy with simple languages and musical compositions, enabling the masses to grasp and internalize complex spiritual teachings. This brought unparalleled glory to Kannada and created a unique legacy that continues to inspire devotion and learning. The authority for the works of Haridasas is reinforced by none other than Sri Vyasa, considering an incarnation of Narayana and a revered author of the Vedas. In the Bhagavata, he states that even if the glorification of the Lord, his incarnations, divine pastimes, and the teachings are written in vernacular languages like Kannada, one must listen to them and develop devotion towards Sri Hari. By stating this, he affirms that listening to the Lord's glories, even in vernacular languages, leads to spiritual upliftment and serves as a legitimate means of devotion. The role of great saints in Kannada Haridasa literature. Enlightened saints like Sri Narahari Tirtharu, Sri Sripadarajaru, Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu, who were well versed in the divine will of the Supreme Lord, composed Kannada Haridasa literature as inspired by the Lord himself. Their goal was a spiritual upliftment of both scholars and commoners. By distilling the essence of Vedas, Shastras, and Puranas, they presented profound truths, the Lord's glories, and His divine pastimes in Kannada, making these teachings accessible and relatable to everyone. Their contributions brought immense spiritual and cultural benefits to the society. Importance of writing in Kannada. It is crucial to understand that the works of Sri Sripadarajaru, Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu, and other Haridasas in Kannada played a pivotal role in cultivating spiritual values, devotion, and awareness among the masses. Had their composition been in Sanskrit alone, they would have been restricted to scholars, defeating the purpose of spreading spiritual knowledge widely. By using the language of the people and adopting a simple, heartfelt style, they ensured that their teachings touched the hearts of the common man. This accessibility is why Haridasa literature remains popular to this day. While Sanskrit holds its unparalleled sanctity for core scriptures and rituals, vernacular languages like Kannada served as a medium to convey the Shastra's essence to the common people. The goal of the Haridasas was never to disregard Sanskrit or the foundational scriptures, but to bring their wisdom to the majority who did not understand Sanskrit. This balance between fidelity to the scriptures and accessibility for the masses is the essence of Haridasa literature, and it can be boldly proclaimed as a rational and noble endeavor. The revolutionary vision of Sri Sripadarajaru and Sri Vyasarajaru. In today's context, when Kannada pride and cultural identity are gaining prominence, the vision of saints like Sri Sripadarajaru and Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu became even more relevant. Over 5 centuries ago, the luminaries envisioned a need to present philosophy, religion, literature, and art in Kannada to the people. Through their monumental works, comprising millions of Kannada padas, suladis, and poetic compositions, they popularized the Kannada languages and enriched its literature. Their revolutionary foresight and devotion to Kannada can be considered groundbreaking achievements. It is clear that these great saints were deeply compassionate towards the underprivileged and downtrodden, dedicating their effort to uplift them to spiritual knowledge and cultural empowerment. Lasting impact on Kannada culture. The contributions of Kannada Haridasas have left an indelible mark on the cultural consciousness of Kannada people. The extraordinary service rendered by Sri Sripadarajaru, Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu, and their successor is why Kannada literature and culture continues to inspire pride among the people today. The awakening of Kannada identity owes much to their efforts, and their legacy will remain cherished forever by the Kannada-speaking world. Among the disciples of Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu, Sri Vijayendra Tirtharu, and Sri Vadirajaru stands out prominently. Sri Vijayendra Tirtharu was the pontiff of the illustrious lineage of Sri Kavindra and Sri Vibhunendra Tirtharu, successors of Sri Madhvacharya Mahasamsthana. A master of all scriptures, he was renowned as Sarvatantra Swatantra, independent in all fields of knowledge. After Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu, Sri Vijayendra Tirtharu upheld the Dvaita philosophy, composing hundreds of works, defeating opponents in debates, and propagating the philosophy through teachings and discourse. As a devoted disciple of Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu, he played a key role in nurturing Kannada Haridasa literature as per his guru's instructions. Not only did he promote it in every possible way, but he also composed many devotional songs under the Ankita Vijayendra, significantly enriching the Haridasa treasury. Examples of his composition include Yogivarya Vyasarayaremba Vichitra Megha, Bega Vishnupada Torisutta Banditidiko, Ramana Rani Siteya Mukadandake Sotu Lajjayinda Ratri Charananada. He also composed an extraordinary suladi beginning with Parabhamma Hrudaya alongside numerous other songs and suladis, elevating Kannada Haridasa literature. Scholars recognized him as a divine incarnation from the Vayujana, celestial lineage of Vayu, and praised him as belonging to the exalted Rugjana. Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu, Sri Vadiraja Tirtharu. Sri Vadiraja Tirtharu, another disciple of Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu, was the pontiff of Sudemata. A blessed scholar, he mastered all scriptures under Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu. Sri Vadirajuru was a devoted worshipper of Sri Haigriva Deva and travelled across India visiting sacred sites and composing the Tirtha Prabandha, an excellent Sanskrit poem describing the deities and glories of these pilgrimage centers. His Rukminamsha Vijaya, a grand epic in Sanskrit, is considered a monumental contribution to Sanskrit literature. Sri Vadirajuru composed around 50 to 60 smaller Sanskrit works, including the hymns and poems. His Vedantic texts such as Yukti Mallika and Lakshabharana are regarded as outstanding contribution to Dvaita philosophy. Following the path laid by his guru, Sri Vadirajuru composed hundreds of devotional songs under the Ankita Hayavandana, making extraordinary contribution to Haridasa literature. He also wrote Kannada poetic works such as Lakshmi Sobhane, Tatpara Ninadaya, a Kannada translation, Vaikunta Varnane, Gundakriya, Swapnanandana, among others. These works brought immense spiritual and literary value to Kannada literature. Scholars acclaim Sri Vadirajuru as a divine incarnation of Lathavya, who will attain the future position of Brahma, further highlighting his celestial stature. Contribution to Kannada Haridasa literature. The contribution of Sri Vijayendra Tirtharu and Sri Vadiraja Tirtharu to Kannada Haridasa literature are unparalleled. Their composition and philosophical works not only enriched the literary and spiritual heritage but also played a critical role in spreading devotion and uplifting society. Their enduring legacy ensures that their contribution will never be forgotten. Purandaradasaru is a towering figure of the golden age of Kannada Haridasa literature, whose name remains eternally linked with this literary tradition. His contributions is so profound to his guru, Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu, held him in the highest regard. It is said that Sri Vyasarajaru honored Purandaradasaru's vast body of works comprising songs, verses, soladis and ugabhogas by placing it on Vyasapita and referring it to as Purandarupanishad. This act of recognition underscores the divine nature and immense value of Purandaradasaru's contribution to Kannada Haridasa literature. Purandaradasaru's name has become immortal in the Kannada Haridasa tradition due to the unparalleled literary treasury he bestowed. He is said to have composed a staggering total of 425,000 songs in one of his hymns, beginning with Vasudevana Namavali. Purandaradasaru himself elaborates on the vastness of his composition, mentioning how they were inspired by the grace of Sri Vyasarajaru. Purandaradasaru's composition style. The systematic approach Purandaradasaru adopted for his composition, ensuring that accessibility and spiritual depth. His immense output and lyrical brilliance not only enriched Kannada Haridasa literature but also made it a powerful medium to instill devotion and spiritual wisdom in the masses. Because of the vastness and profound literature Purandaradasaru provided, Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu honored it by calling it Purandarupanishad and praised him with the word. If one speak of a Haridasa, it is none other than Purandaradasa. Purandaradasaru's style was extremely simple yet deeply captivating, and even today hundreds of his songs remain effortlessly ingrained in the daily lives of Kannadigas. Purandaradasaru is celebrated as the father of Carnatic music by providing lyrical composition in Kannada and shaping the structure of Carnatic music. He and his lineage of Haridasas gave it a definitive form and promoted it widely. From that time to the present, all composers, musicians, and scholars of music have revered him as the pioneer of Carnatic music. The credit of blending music with Kannada Haridasa literature and popularizing it through singing first goes to Sri Sripadarajaru, Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu, and Sri Purandaradasaru. This is a remarkable contribution that continues to inspire pride. By setting devotional songs to music, they made them appealing and accessible to all, achieving their purpose effectively. Purandaradasaru's family heritage. All four of Purandaradasa's sons embraced the Dasa Diksha, that is, vow of Haridasa, and contributed to Haridasa literature, writing under the pen names Varada Purandara Vitala, Guru Purandara Vitala, Abhinava Purandara Vitala, and Guru Madhvapati. They composed thousands of devotional songs, significantly enriching the tradition. Sri Vijayadasaru praised them as incarnation of Chandra, that is moon, Surya, that is sun, Brahaspati, that is Jupiter, and Durvasa Maharshi, highlighting their divine stature. Kanakadasaru's contribution. Another luminary who enriched Kannada Haridasa literature was Sri Kanakadasaru, writing under the pen name Adikeshava. Kanakadasaru composed thousands of independent devotional songs as well as Kannada poetic works such as Mohana Tarangini, Haribhakti Sara, Nalacharitre, Narasimhastava, and Ramadhyana Charitre. His riddles, Mundigis, posed challenges even to scholars and reflected his profound intellect. Kanakadasaru's compositions are marked by simplicity of language, depth of meaning, and words that resonate deeply within the hearts. His work often include fearless critics, addressing issues such as idol worship of minor deities like Mari and Masani, and promoting true devotion to Sri Hari. These songs, using the everyday language of the people, influenced and reformed superstitious practices, instilling devotion in many. This was a significant social reform. Originally a follower of Sri Vaishnava tradition, Kanakadasaru became a disciple of Sri Vyasarajaru after receiving Sri Hari's guidance, taking Dadastika under Vyasarajaru, Dasa Diksha under Vyasarajaru. He became a distinguished follower of Madhva tradition and a leading member of the Haridasa group. Haridasas regarded him as an incarnation of Yama and extolled his contributions. Conclusion. The unparalleled literary contribution of Sri Purandaradasaru and Sri Kanakadasaru greatly enriched Kannada Haridasa literature. Their works blended devotion, social reforms, and Kannada and cultural pride, leaving an enduring impact on Kannada society. Their legacy of literature and music continues to inspire generation and serve as a foundation for the spiritual and cultural identity of the Kannada people. Among eminent figures influenced by Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu was Gadak's Narayanappa. A follower of the Madhva tradition, he was a disciple of Sri Vyasarajaru and a close friend of Purandaradasaru. Narayanappa composed the Kannada Mahabharata, and through Purandaradasa approached his guru, Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu, at the Vishwapavana Matha. He sought Vyasarajaru's blessings and requested him to review and endorse his epic. Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu thoroughly examined the work and, overjoyed by its excellence, composed the following verse in the honor of Mahakavya significance. Arasu Galigidu Veera Dvijayarige. With this, Sri Vyasarajaru bestowed the title Kumara Vyasa upon Narayanappa as a mark of respect. Following Vyasaraja's recommendation, the scholar king Krishnadevaraya, known for his patronage of learning, honored Narayanappa in several ways. Narayanappa's poetry is imbued with Vishnu's devotion, reflecting the supremacy of Lord Vishnu Sarvabhouma and extolling the greatness of Vayudeva. Such a composition, emphasizing Madhva philosophy, could only have been crafted by a devoted follower of Madhva. His poetry itself stands as testimony to his deep roots in the tradition. The following verse from Narayanappa's invocation in his epic confirm his Madhva's allegiance. Vanditamara Sevanayaka. This verse, praising the Lord, clearly identifies Narayanappa as a follower of Madhva philosophy. His works highlighted his devotion and the profound philosophical principles of Dvaita, leaving an indelible mark on Kannada literature. In this verse, Narayanappa praises Sri Madhvacharya similarly when describing the occasion where Kunti Devi receives Bhimasena from Vayudeva. He writes, Yendu Balikara Vindalochane. These lines unequally establish Narayanappa as a staunch Madhava follower. In many other instances, he glorifies the greatness of Sri Hari and Vayu. Upon examining all these details, it becomes clear that Narayanappa was not only a Madhva devotee, but also a disciple blessed by Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu. Harisharanaranna Mane Mettalu Mane. Here, Purandaradasaru not only praises Narayanappa's Mahabharata, which extols the supreme principles, Paratattva, Sri Krishna, but also mentions that Narayanappa visited his home, conversed with him, and dined there. This feature highlights that Narayanappa was a Madhva devotee, Harisharana, following the path of Sri Madhvacharya as elucidated in Tatparanirnaya, contributions of Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu. Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu was instrumental in nurturing and guiding eminent figures like Sri Vijayendraru, Sri Vadirajaru, Sri Purandaradasaru, Sri Kanakadasaru, Gadigina Narayanappa, and Timmannakavi. These great scholars, Harisharanas, and poets significantly enriched Kannada literature and spiritual tradition, a testament to Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu's profound influence and visionary mentorship. During the 16th and 17th century, known as the Golden Age of Vijayanagara Kannada Empire, under the reign of Sri Krishnadevaraya, Haridasa literature, initially promoted by Sri Sripadaraju, flourished remarkably under the leadership of Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu. Under the guidance of Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu, the royal guru, a gathering of enlightened individuals collaborated with Purandaradasaru as the leader to create the extraordinary body of Kannada Haridasa literature. Through the compositions of millions of Kannada songs, verses, soladis, and poetic works, they contributed to the expansive and profound repository of Haridasa literature, enriching the Kannada language and culture. This immortal literature continues to inspire Kannada pride and serve as a source of motivation and reverence for all, earning the eternal gratitude of the Kannada people. Evolution of Kannada Haridasa literature. The tradition of Kannada Haridasa literature, initiated in the 13th century by Sri Narahari Tirtharu, gained momentum under Sri Sripadarajaru and reached its pinnacle under Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu. The fruits of this legacy, enriched further by saints like Purandaradasaru and Kanakadasaru, were enjoyed and cherished by the people. This era is rightly considered the golden age of Kannada Haridasa literature. The Haridasa of this golden age were not merely devout mystics. They were aparoksha jnanis and divine incarnations. Their compositions are invaluable treasuries, with each sentence being as profound and concise as Upanishad verses. This illustrious group included great scholars and philosophers like Sri Sripadarajaru, Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu, Sri Vijayendraru, Sri Vadirajaru, eminent Haridasas like Sri Purandaradasaru, enlightened souls like Kanakadasaru, born in the lower caste but attaining spiritual heights, and poets like Gadigina Narayanappa and Timmanna, whose works enriched Kannada literature. Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu, a central figure. Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu, as both the teacher and inspiration for these luminaries, played a pivotal role in nurturing and guiding this tradition. He was a foundation of motivation and wisdom, supporting these extraordinary individuals in their spiritual and literary endeavors. The patronage received from Sri Krishnadevaraya, the Emperor of Karnataka, was another significant factor contributing to the flourishing of Kannada literature during this period. Legacy and contribution. This collective effort of brilliant minds not only enriched Kannada literature but also immensely benefited the Madhva tradition and society at large. The golden age of Kannada Haridasa literature stands as a testament to the harmonious blend of devotion, scholarship, and cultural pride, creating a legacy that continues to illuminate and inspire. In ancient times, the Puranas spoke of the Bhagavata's greats such as Narada and Prahlada. Their spiritual legacy came together one more in human form during Kaliyuga, leading to the emergence of this extraordinary devotional literature. The impact of this literature on Kannada literature and society has been eternal. Furthermore, the Haridasa tradition flourished under the stewardship of Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu's later incarnation, Sri Raghavendra Swamigalu. This lineage was further nurtured and developed by scholars and saints like Sri Vadindra, Sri Vasudhendra, Sri Varadendra, Sri Bhuvanendra Tirtharu, Sri Vyasa Tattvagnana Tirtharu, as well as luminaries like Sri Vijaya Dasa, Sri Gopala Dasa, Sri Jagannatha Dasaru. Together, they expanded the Haridasa tradition and contribution to the creation of extraordinary devotional literature. It can be unequally stated that these saints and scholars have made unparalleled contribution to Kannada literature, society, culture, and language. The inspiring and central figure behind this remarkable tradition was Sri Vyasaraja Guru Sarvabhouma. No proud Kannadiga could ever forget the immense contribution and guidance of Sri Vyasaraja Tirtharu, whose influence continues to resonate across generation. Hari Om, Om Sri Krishnarpanamastu.